Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Erin. I'm the Student Recruitment Officer for UBC Engineering at the UBC Vancouver campus. My pronouns are she, her, and I'd like to acknowledge the land that UBC has built its Vancouver campus on, which we work, learn, connect, and innovate, is the unceded, ancestral, and traditional territory of the Musqueam peoples. Now, I'd like to introduce your co-host for today, Marie.
Hi everyone, I'm Marie Reed. I'm the Project Manager of Programs and Strategy for the School of Engineering at the UBC Okanagan campus. My pronouns are she, her, and I would like to acknowledge that UBC Okanagan is situated in the territory of the Sea Lakes Okanagan Nation and their peoples. I would also like to acknowledge that you may be joining us today from many places near and far and acknowledge the traditional owners and caretakers of those lands. Back over to you, Erin.
Perfect. So just a few kind of quick housekeeping things to go through today, and then we're just going to do a few slides just to remind you about some of the things about UBC Engineering. And then we're going to jump into any questions that you have. So it's going to be a very, very short presentation just about kind of what the most common questions we get are, and then we are here to answer those questions for you. So if you do have any audio issues, feel free to leave the session and then you can log back in. You can also access the little microphone button that should be in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen in case your settings are not right in there. But you won't be able to speak out loud today, just like all of our sessions, to protect you because it is being recorded, but you can ask your questions in the Q&A. So we are using the Q&A feature. If you don't see it at the bottom of your screen, you can click that little more button that's like kind of a circle with three dots in it. And then you should be able to see the Q&A in there that you can use. You can ask questions. You can upvote other people's questions. You can set it so that you're asking anonymously if you'd like to. So lots of options in there, and we will try and get through as many questions as we can today. If you've had all of your questions answered and you don't have any more, you're welcome to leave at any point as well. And so because the session is really designed for you, we are here to answer any questions related to UBC Engineering today. If you have questions about your application or the admission process, we'll try and answer as many of those as we can. Marie and I are both not admission advisors though, so we can't go super, super in depth. And if you have very, very specific questions about a particular thing that you're seeing on your application, that might mean that we have to like review your file to know a little bit more. So you can email us if you do have any other questions. You should have the outreach email, which is outreach@apsc.ubc.ca from the event invite and from your registration confirmation. So you can definitely email us there. Or if it's a very specific admissions question or something like very specific about documents, then you might also want to use the UBC contact form as well. So speaking of some of those links that I just mentioned, we also have the resources tab. So if you click on the resources tab, again, if you're not seeing it right away, you might see it in that little circle with three dots that says more. Click on that. You'll see kind of three pages stacked on top of each other that says resources. In there, there is a whole long list of links. There's like, I think 30 links in there, so I know it's a lot. But those are kind of the most popular links that we share throughout any of these sessions, so they might be useful for you to click through. It will say that you're going to be leaving Zoom, but it just means that it's opening in a different browser outside of Zoom, so you can click OK. It's not going to take you out of this session at all. If you click on the Documents tab, within resources, we also have a PDF saved in there that has most of the links saved in there as well. And so if you want to save all those links to access later, click on that Documents tab, and then you can access those links at a later time. Closed captioning is enabled today. You can click on the closed captioning button. And finally, if you're not able to stay with us for the full session, there will be a recording available in the next few days as well. So stay tuned for that. We'll send an email to you, or you can access it on the UBC Engineering YouTube channel. All right, so a lot of you kind of want to know, probably you've applied now, what's next? What should you expect to hear about in the coming days, weeks, months even? So we're going to just address a few quick pieces here to try and kind of cover any questions that you might have before we move on to answering some of your questions. So UBC does continue to send out decisions of admission on a rolling basis. So it is a rolling basis. Some students may already have an offer of admission. Most students, though, should expect to receive any information about admissions in March and April once those first term results are available for review by UBC. Any updates to your application will be communicated to you first through your application service center. Now, if you are having any trouble logging into the ASC, you can try using an incognito browser, a private browser, clearing your cache, or using a different browser altogether. It does get kind of like stuck on if your cache hasn't been cleared in a little bit. And even I have trouble logging onto it, but if I use an incognito browser on Google Chrome, then it seems to solve that issue. I also want to remind you that UBC will always assess your first choice first. If you're not admissible at that point in time, then we'll assess your second choice. If you've already been offered admission to your second choice and are waiting to see if your first choice will be assessed, it will still be assessed when new results are available. So we're not going to just admit you to your second choice and stop looking at you. You will still be reconsidered. But I also want to mention if you want to be considered for your second choice and you've been admitted to your first choice already, you will need to contact admissions for them to consider your second choice if you don't see any updates on that yet. So that would be a great time to use the contact form to ask them to consider your second choice if that's something that you're wondering. If UBC does require any additional information from you, such as transcripts, they'll let you know through that applicant service account. And depending on which documents are required, so it could be unofficial or official, it'll determine how it needs to be submitted. So you might have some transcripts that can be uploaded through the ASC, but other documents might need to be sent from the issuing institution. So that means like if you're doing AP, those results need to be sent by the College Board or IBO for IB results, for example. Read your ASC thoroughly for those details. You'll likely also receive an email that tells us what you need, but the ASC should have more information on that. The next piece I want to mention is that offers are conditional. So you must complete your offer of admission requirements and send your final grades by the given deadline. In your offer letter, you'll see a list of conditions that are very, very broad. And so a lot of students always want to know, like, what exactly does this mean? What does it mean to keep my relative same academic standing and all those sorts of things? Well, in that little paragraph there on your offer letter, there is a link that is how to keep your offer. And on that website does go into more depth on specifically what you need. So whether you're studying a Canadian curriculum, an international curriculum, whether you're an AP, IB, doing A levels, any of those things, it'll be a lot more specific of what specifically you need to do to keep your offer of admission. So I would definitely access that. All right. And then also a good idea to always keep an eye on those dates and deadlines in our resources tab that you can access. Of course, we always get lots of admission about scholarships. So scholarships decisions are being made right now. Some of you may have received an offer of admission and no notice of scholarships, and that's pretty typical for UBC. Scholarship decisions are typically released between mid-March to throughout the end of April. And you'll be notified separately by email. So again, make sure that you're up to date on your emails. Keep checking your email, especially if you've used a different email address than you would normally use to apply to UBC. Make sure that you're checking those emails because lots of important information will be going there from UBC, from UBC Engineering, and from kind of any of the information about your application. And so while you have already done the hard part about applying to UBC, a lot of the scholarships have automatic consideration, or you would have already opted into them and things like that. So there's not actually anything that you need to do now to apply for scholarships. But you can start looking at what your first year costs will look like and planning for that using the cost calculator on our website. The last thing I want to mention is about housing. So if you want to be living in residence in your first year of university, there is a guarantee for first year students coming in from high school that you'll be guaranteed a space in residence as long as you apply by May 1st. So make sure that you are applying before that deadline, even if you don't have an admission offer yet. And then just keep in mind that if you're considering both campuses, that you need to apply to residence at both campuses. It's a separate application between campuses.
So, thanks so much, Erin. So now we're going to chat a little bit about engineering at both the Vancouver and the Okanagan campus. So UBC Engineering is one of Canada's best engineering schools, which is consistently reflected in world university rankings. Today we have many students attending here, and you may have applied to the Okanagan campus or the Vancouver campus or both. While the feel of each campus is quite a bit different, both campuses' engineering programs are equally prestigious and accredited, where you will be learning and working with professors who are leaders in their fields. I'm from the Okanagan campus, Erin's at the Vancouver campus, so if you have any questions today about what it is like at our campuses, please feel free to ask us, and we're happy to share all the little nuggets of information that we know about both of those campuses. So when we're talking about programs, the Okanagan campus currently has 5 engineering programs. At the UBC Okanagan campus, engineering students are guaranteed placement in their first choice engineering program, which they'll select from at the end of their first year. So what this means is that if you want civil engineering, you are guaranteed a seat in civil engineering, as an example. The programs that are currently accepting new students at the Okanagan campus are civil engineering, computer engineering, electrical engineering, and mechanical engineering. Manufacturing engineering right now is currently not accepting new students. So as I mentioned earlier, engineering students will select their program at the end of their first year of study. So this means that you have that entire first year, that foundational first year, to really learn about your program, to have that time to figure out which program is right for you. And if you're a transfer student who may be joining us today and you're admitted into year 2, don't worry, you're going to receive lots of information about the program placement process after you've been admitted and accept your offer, and you'll get that information from our engineering academic services team. At the Vancouver campus, there are 14 engineering disciplines or programs for students to choose from. At the Vancouver campus, placement into these programs is at the end of your first year as well, but this is a competitive process, and some programs may require additional requirements such as an interview or specific course prerequisites. Overall, students are going to get a lot of information about this placement process and the requirements throughout their first year of study, and you'll get that from in your classes, through program fairs, chatting with upper year students and profs, so you don't have to worry too much about the specific details right now. Select top applicants may also be offered guaranteed placement to one of our 13 undergraduate programs, with the exception of engineering physics at the Vancouver campus. These offers will begin to go out to admitted students sometime in February. So sometime now, students may start to receive those and continue going out to eligible students throughout the spring. Even without guaranteed placement, you can be assured that roughly 90% of first years will get into one of their top choices. So placement is primarily based on grades. So making sure you're set up to be academically successful will be one of the few things that really help you get into your top choice program, okay? So there may be some students here who are interested specifically in biomedical engineering. So there is a pre-biomedical timetable that will allow you to specialize your courses a little bit further in your first year to better prepare you for biomedical engineering. Once you're admitted to the Vancouver campus, students will receive an email with more details about this. There also is information sessions happening about once a month, and those are listed on our engineering events page. You can find a link to that in our resources tab as well if you're interested in finding that page. And like I mentioned before, if you are a transfer student who is admitted to year 2 at the Vancouver campus, you will also go through that placement process in the spring. You're going to receive all that information from the engineering academic services team, as well as any details about transfer credits. Okay, and so the last thing I want to talk about before we jump into our Q&A today is really about how you can customize your degree. And so one of the best things about the Bachelor of Applied Science at UBC is that we have many ways for you to customize your degree, and you can look and see what is the right way for you to do this. The reason why we spend a lot of time talking about this now, even though these are things you usually pursue a little bit later in your degree after first year, is because employers are really looking for how you have built your soft skills and technical skills outside of the classroom. So understanding the opportunities you have with an institution is super important when you're selecting which institution you decide to attend. So at UBC, regardless of which campus you're at, from the very start, you're going to be exposed to hands-on design projects where you get to work with teams with other first-year students. And then year over year after that, you're going to have courses that continue to build on those project-based team learning experiences, culminating in your final year with the capstone design project, is when you and your peers are going to work with an industry partner or someone from a research lab to solve real life problems. If you are super interested in research, there are also many ways for you to be involved in different research labs at both campuses. You could also choose to pursue a minor or a dual degree, which pretty much allows you to have a secondary area of study or focus for your degree. You might consider going abroad to work, research, or study in your third year. So, really great opportunity if you're interested to travel a bit throughout your degree. Maybe you'll find a passion by joining one of our design teams, and this would allow you to design and create projects outside of the classroom. Really great way to further your technical skills, but also build some leadership skills, communication skills as well. And super fun. A lot of these design teams get to compete, so a lot of great trips and different extracurricular activities for you. And you might be interested in co-op, which is really gaining paid work experience throughout your degree. If you have a lot of questions about co-op, I have really great news for you. We just held a session on that 2 days ago, and we have put the recording up on our UBC Engineering YouTube channel. So it's a great session where we had the representatives from co-op there and alumni from our co-op program sharing their experience. So if you really want to dive deep and learn about that, we have a really great recording that we just posted that you can learn in depth about that program. So that was just a very high level overview of how you can customize your degree at UBC at the Okanagan and Vancouver campuses. Like Erin mentioned, there are tons of links in our resource tab that you can go through if you want to explore those in more detail. We also have more events coming up that will talk about student life and touch on a lot of these subjects. And this is really your time that if you have any specific questions about any of this, Erin and I are super happy to answer those. So that leads me right into the next part of this session today, where we're going to start answering the questions that you have specifically about engineering at UBC. So Erin, oh, sorry, just a reminder before, if you're just joining us or if you haven't opened that Q&A yet, if you go to the bottom of this Zoom screen, you can see a Q&A, which looks like it's a little talking box with a question mark in it. If you click on that, you can type in your question. If you can't see that, click on the More button with the 3 dots and it should show up there. Just a reminder, you're not able to turn on your mic to ask the question. All questions need to be asked in the Q&A. So please feel free to start typing those in. And Erin and I are going to start reviewing those and answering them. So Erin, I haven't had a chance to look at that Q&A yet, so could I pass that over to you to get us started?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So there's one question. I am going to, so questions asking about submitting documents. And so it's really hard for us to answer that specifically here because we don't know all of the details. But I am going to type a response to your question that just has the link to submit documents. So you can see that there. And then I'm going to flag that for everyone. So just a reminder as well, we have that resources tab that has a lot of great links. So I just added how to submit documents on there so you can have a look at that website. So the question was kind of, can I have my school email those official transcripts? Do they need to be mailed? So it just depends on what's being requested of you. But you can look on there and see what might be the requirement. Um, a lot of the times, stuff can be emailed, especially if it's from international. students. And so there is a email on there that says final.grades@ubc.ca. So that's where some transcripts can be submitted. Otherwise, those transcripts can be mailed to UBC, and that address is listed on that website if you scroll towards the bottom as well. So check out there to see. But yes, there is an email listed. There is a address listed on there. So either one of those should work as long as your email or the ASC that you got requesting those documents does not specify how to send it, but it does list it on there. So that's the first question about submitting documents. And then just a reminder for anyone, if you do want to upvote anyone else's question, we will go in order of most upvoted. Otherwise, it'll be just in order of submitted. Um, the next question, Marie, you weren't at the co-op session, but I know you know a lot about co-op. So students asking, can you only work co-op in Vancouver or can you take internships around Columbia and Canada? So maybe you want to address that.
Of course, that's a great question. So, the first thing I want to address is that for applied science, so engineering at UBC, we have our own applied science co-op program, and it is one program across two campuses. So, regardless if you're at the Okanagan campus or the Vancouver campus, you will be applying to join the applied science co-op program where you have access to the same job board, resources. You have advisors at co-op at each campus that help you get ready for those interviews and prep for your job placements. So, about where those internships or co-op placements are located, ultimately they can be located anywhere in the world. We do have a high amount that are located in British Columbia. So you'll see a lot in Metro Vancouver area, Okanagan, and then across British Columbia. We have students who do co-op across Canada, and we do have quite a few students that do co-op internationally across many different countries around the world. So if that is something that is of interest to you, or if you are an international student where you think you have an opportunity in your home country that you want to bring to the co-op office, that is an option for you as well. So that is a great thing about co-op. It's not within one region. You are able to explore a bit, go to different companies, and it really will depend on what program you're in, where those jobs are, and sort of what your job interest is within your program. Because when we're looking at any program, there are many different types of jobs within, say, civil engineering or mining engineering that you could explore, and the locations of where those are located will vary as well.
And you also do multiple co-op terms. So typically students are doing at least two, if not more, co-op terms. And so terms can be anywhere from like 4 months to 16 months long. A lot of them, though, are going to be 8 months. And so you're doing at least 16 months of paid work experience as part of the co-op program. And so you could do, if you're at the Vancouver campus, for example, you could do one co-op in Vancouver and you could do one co-op term internationally or in Toronto or wherever it is that you might be interested in going to for a few months. So lots of opportunity there to explore and pick lots of different options, whatever works for you. Thanks, Marie. Next question is really great. It is, sorry, my Q&A just scrolled.
Me
What
too.
support exists for engineering students who want to build startups or commercialize ideas? That's a really great question. We have tons of students that do lots of different projects, whether it is trying to commercialize and actually sell that, trying to build a startup, or sometimes doing it just for fun. There's lots of different opportunities at both campuses to do that. And I think our programs really support that. A lot of our programs will have some kind of like entrepreneurship pieces built into the program itself. At the Vancouver campus, we also have the minor in commerce or entrepreneurship that you can look at doing if that's kind of like where you see yourself going eventually. But we also have a lot of startup hubs on both campuses to help kind of facilitate these sorts of ideas. We have when is the presentation that in December we did a presentation that was called Careers from Engineering. And one of the students, Kenny, that was in that presentation talked about how he worked on a team. It was during COVID. And so they were creating this new respiratory mask to help with COVID patients. And so they actually were creating this project to be able to sell it as a startup. And it did actually become a company. And he didn't stay involved with it for too long, but he was part of that kind of startup and building that company and creating a commercialized product. So that's one example. He did talk about that a little bit in that session. So if you want to go to the YouTube channel and see one of those previous presentations, you definitely can access that. Marie, anything more specific from the Okanagan campus that you wanted to share?
Yeah, I think entrepreneurship honestly is such a great question. It is getting more and more well known that there is a lot of engineers who are interested in creating their own startups.
Mhm.
And at the Okanagan campus, we have a few specific professors who teach courses related to innovation, design, and entrepreneurship. Some of these professors actually help a lot of students with their startups and are mentors for those students as they're pursuing their interest in startups. So, if you are interested in building a startup or commercializing an idea when you arrive at either of our campuses, I highly recommend you start searching out those mentors because they exist at both campuses who can help you throughout your degree to continue to work on that. We also have a new master's program at the Okanagan campus called Master of Design, which is really focused on product creation. And it is from the engineering faculty that are involved. It's a cross-faculty supported master's between the School of Engineering and the Faculty of Creative and Critical Studies, with the goal of the students coming out of there being able to support in product design and companies. So creating new products that meet demand for industry. So it's a very specialized master's program, and the engineering profs who are supporting that are our profs who support entrepreneurship and innovation. So there are these new programs that are coming forward that are really built around that concept.
Yeah, perfect. And if you do search like startup hubs or anything like that at UBC, I know that there's a few different ones available. A lot of them do focus a little bit more on master's or graduate students, but they will typically have some options or accessibility by undergraduate students as well. So there's a few different, like kind of different resources that you can do at both campuses as well. So it's always something that you can search up. And again, just a reminder, coming into first year is a difficult program. And so it might be a good idea to come into first year, start exploring, maybe join a design team as kind of that way to do some of that hands-on experience and things like that before truly kind of trying to have your own startup or commercialize your ideas or do that piece. But there is opportunity available to first years and throughout your whole undergraduate degree as well. So great question. The next one's a little bit more about admission. So, how do I know when my offer has been confirmed or is no longer conditional? So we get that question a lot, and typically it's going to be once your final results are available and reviewed. And for most students, this won't be until sometime later in the summer. So UBC will get your final results and will review that information to confirm that you've done what is required to keep your offer of admission. And as long as you haven't done anything to not, finish the required courses or your grades haven't dropped too much, then you should expect that you can keep it and there won't be any issues with that. But your offer letter that you have, like especially if you're an international student, even though it is conditional, that is still what you use to apply for a study permit and all those sorts of things. So even though your offer is conditional, you should expect, as long as you're meeting those requirements, that you will be fine and that there's no issue with that. But you will be notified in the summer if you have not met the conditions of your offer. So you can expect that to continue unless you're notified otherwise, basically.
Aaron, I see there's a
Uh,
question here
mhm,
about facilities specifically at the Okanagan campus, study areas,
mhm.
sports centers, libraries. So I can just speak to that really quick, and then I can pass over to you to talk about the Vancouver campus as well, if you'd like.
Sure.
So if we're talking specifically about sports centers and spaces, there is a lot of great space at the Okanagan campus. When we're looking indoors here, we have a hangar fitness and wellness center. We have fitness studios, stretch and strength areas, a gym, a running corridor, all inside. And then for outdoor spaces, we have our Nonus Field. We have beach volleyball courts. We have campus trails, like just all around campus that you can explore. There's an outdoor fitness loop. And then we have a commons field and slackline post as well, which is right around our residence area, which is a really great space. We have a great library space on campus where there is quiet rooms to study that you can book out, as well as a lot of study space and access to our librarians, who we do connect our first year students with right away if you have any questions about how to research things or where to find resources you may need for your courses. And then, sorry, I just went to the bottom. The last question was about just study areas on campus. So most of our buildings have study areas for students. There are bookable study areas. So if you're like having a team meeting, you can book those out. There are many in our engineering building, but we also have a lot of other beautiful buildings on campus that have a lot of great study spaces. There are just open foyer study spaces. And then we have things called collegiums, and these are really great spaces where they have couches and a TV and a kitchen. So you can still study in those spaces, but you can also just take a break in those spaces. So if you just want to read a book, maybe watch a little bit of a show, you want to eat your lunch, just have a little break. They're a nice, relaxing space on campus where you can kind of take a break from the noise in the main foyer, and just relax for a bit.
Yeah, pretty much the same at the Okanagan, or sorry, pretty much the same at Vancouver as the Okanagan, I should say, in kind of describing those areas. Lots of, there's a little bit more at Vancouver just because it's a larger campus with more students to serve. So we do have a brand new fitness facility, but there's also a few other kind of fitness areas on campus as well. We have lots of libraries. I actually don't even know how many libraries UBC has across campus, but I did a quick Google search. It says 21 between both campuses. So we have a lot of libraries. But there's lots of kind of centralized, some of those are specialized libraries, some of them are more centralized. All of those spaces will have quiet rooms where it's like dead silent, you're not allowed to talk. Some of them will have like medium rooms where you can like whisper here and there. And then some of the spaces will be just like open, you can chat. Especially good if you're like studying in a group where you can kind of chat and ask each other questions. But you can still study and things like that as well. It totally depends on your preference of where you want to study, of whether I like the ambient noise, and so I'd like put headphones in, but I liked hearing stuff but like around me. But some people like just the total silence. So whatever your preference is, we have all of those options. I will flag the link to our YouTube channel. So we previously had a engineering stories team that was a group of UBC engineering students that kind of vlogged about daily life. And they do have a couple videos about those sorts of things, like study areas on campus where they like to study. So let me just find the link for our YouTube past presentations. And then it's not the same playlist, but you'll be able to go to our channel and then find the engineering stories playlist for more information about those. All right. Found it, and I just reshared that link, so you should see that link pop up as a notification. Perfect.
The next question, at least what's showing up on my screen here, is
Mhm.
how is UBC, or how connected is UBC with the aeronautics industry in Canada? So I can speak to how our program is connected to that. So at the both Okanagan and Vancouver campuses, we have an aerospace option for students in mechanical engineering. So if you are interested in aerospace, that is an option at either campuses. There are different research opportunities as well in aeronautics, just depending on what part of that you are looking at. When we talk about aerospace, there's lots of different um, avenues within that. There's more space related to aerospace, but there's also like planes related to aerospace. So there are different pathways. And at the Okanagan campus, I can speak to specifically, there are different research partnerships that have been built in that aerospace field. KF Aerospace is very close to our campus. It's less than 10 minutes down the road. We actually host our capstone final um a celebration where the students are showcasing all of their projects at KF Aerospace. They are a partner that works a lot really closely with the School of Engineering, so I know there are opportunities there. Anything else for the Vancouver campus, Erin?
No, I think you kind of covered it in general. I know with co-op, we've had students go work at Boeing in Seattle, which is not far from the Vancouver campus. Um, we've had students work for Bombardier and things like that as well. So that would be in Eastern Canada. But yeah, it really just depends on what your interests are. But there's definitely connections there. Again, those aerospace programs would be a really strong start to really get that true foundation. But also, there's a lot of different programs that you can go into that are connected to aerospace as well. So mechanical engineering obviously is a lot of like the fluid dynamics and things like that. So, like how a plane actually flies. But obviously, there's all of the computer control system. So, something like electrical engineering would also give you a lot of access to that aerospace industry. And then I think probably a really great option would be to look at doing co-op to kind of make those connections earlier in your degree before you even graduate. So yeah, lots of opportunities for sure. All right, a kind of similar question about how easy is it to collaborate across faculties? So, for example, electrical engineering with biology or sustainability initiatives. And so I'm going to say it's very easy. There's several different ways that we have to do so. Um, One that's probably the most popular would be design teams. So we have design teams that are focused on robotics, on uh, motor vehicle, different types. I don't even know how to describe them all. But we have biomedical teams, we have sustainability teams. And so those design teams are actually quite collaborative with students across different faculties. So I know like biomedical teams, for example, will have students from medicine, will have students from kinesiology, and then obviously a lot of engineering students as well. Some of the robotics team may have students from across different faculties that are interested. Sustainability teams as well will have students from various faculties, maybe from forestry, maybe from any other random faculty that's interested in sustainability. We also have the Sustainability Hub, which has a lot of opportunities and internship opportunities for students that you could participate in that's not restricted to any specific faculty. Sustainability itself is something that's like really important to engineering, is you'll have lots of classes about sustainability embedded in your degree, but it's also something that's really important to UBC as a whole. So we have a lot of programs across both campuses, whether those are courses that you can take, whether it's just volunteer opportunities, whether it's getting involved in kind of more research focused pieces about sustainability. So that's something that is very easy to connect with. So yeah, it just depends on how you want to do that. We also have a few courses in engineering where it's specifically set up to be collaborative with other faculties. And so you'll have a team that works on some sort of project where you'll have some engineering students. You'll probably have some students from business, so Sauder School of Business at the Vancouver campus, or from management at the Okanagan campus, for example. You'll have students from arts and science and all sorts of different faculties that are actually part of this class that you have a team working together in your project course as well. So lots of different options. Is there anything I missed from the Okanagan campus, Marie, that you want to specifically highlight?
No, it's the same. Like design teams are definitely where I see a lot of those collaborations across the faculties and clubs as well. Like there's a club called Girls in Tech. There are girls from all different types of faculties who are involved in that. They do hackathons and different amazing events. But our design teams and I would say the central clubs are a great way to collaborate. And those are really the one of the best ways to sort of build those leadership skills that I was talking about earlier that employers are looking for. They want to see that you can collaborate outside of your core group, that you can, share information in a clear way to someone who doesn't have the same background as you, education-wise or experience-wise. So it's nice to have those experiences to speak to when you're in an interview. So that's a great question. I think it's super impactful, when you're trying to get a career later in life.
Great. Okay, I see a few more questions that are Kind of going to be quicker answers that we can get through some of them because I do see a lot of questions in here. So, the next one is for second year placement at Vancouver. If you're a transfer student that is missing some courses, do you have to complete them before second year? So if you are transferring into second year at the Vancouver campus, you should be able to go into, so if you've completed at least 27 credits of our first year program, that means that you should be eligible for second year, even if you have some missing courses. Now, some missing courses may be a prerequisite for further courses that you need to take, specifically something like Physics 158. So that might be something that you really need to take as soon as you can in your second year because it may impact your progression throughout. If you can complete physics before getting to UBC, even if it's taking a summer course so that you have that transfer credit, I would recommend that because that's going to be a course that most of our second year programs need as a prerequisite. However, for something like AppSci 100 and AppSci 101, you'll be able to work with our engineering academic service advisors uh, so that um, they can help you figure out how to fit those pieces into your degree. Any missing courses will need to be completed before you graduate from the program because you do need to have those courses, but not all are going to be as impactful in your progression throughout your degree. So it just depends on the courses specifically if you have the opportunity to complete them in some way before coming to UBC, so like I said, doing summer courses or anything like that, we can still use that transfer credit. The one program I would like to specifically flag at the Vancouver campus is mechanical engineering. If that is what you're interested in, they do have some requirements, physics being one of them, that needs to be completed with a final grade before, I want to say, August 1st. So do check the mechanical engineering site just to make sure that you would have all of those prerequisites completed. Most other programs don't have that specific requirement. That's just simply because of how the MEC 2 second year program runs.
I just want to
Uh,
add, Erin, like
mhm.
super quick, it's a little bit different at the Okanagan campus if you're missing some courses because we don't have the competitive placement. However, if a transfer student doesn't have all their first year courses that transfer in, I always recommend you email if you're at Vancouver, Erin, Okanagan, me during this time, and we can help sort of assess what's the best plan for you with our advisors, so that you
Mhm.
can be set up for success when you start. Even if it's not going to prevent you from getting into your program, sometimes it will have a major impact on your degree later, and it can have just be way better scheduling if you get it done in advance. So please reach out if you're unsure, and we're happy to help sort of answer some of those questions for you via email, and we can look at your file in full.
Perfect. Next upvoted question I see is I've submitted my final A-level grades, gotten confirmation from admissions. So does that just mean that I need to apply for your study permit, pay tuition, register for courses, and come in September? Yeah, so if you have an offer of admission and you're an international student, then yes, please start applying for your study permit as soon as possible. We do have the study permit concierge that can help you through that whole process. There should be a link on your offer letter of the study permit resources. So make sure that you're accessing that. But otherwise, let me just share. We should have a link about study permits. Let me share that. Oh, here we go. I just shared that link again for you to access about applying for a study permit. So make sure that you get on that as soon as possible. Tuition is not going to be due until basically when you're starting courses in September. So you should plan on how you're going to pay tuition, but the tuition is not actually due until then. What you may be thinking of is your deposit to accept your offer of admission. And so that will be due to accept your offer of admission, which is going to have a deadline. Typically for most students, it's going to be May 1st. And course registration for both campuses will happen a little bit later in the summer. You'll get lots of information about course registration depending on which campus you have been admitted and accepted your offer to. But typically, you're going to find out more about that in like May and June about course registration. And then, yeah, of course, we hope to see you in September. So, uh, yeah, you should have those resources. We're going to continue to send out emails with more information throughout the spring. So that should also provide more details of kind of accepting your offer and what to do next. And we're also going to have more sessions coming up as well to kind of help you throughout that process.
Aaron, I see there's a great question here about if there's accommodation in place for engineering students who want to participate in athletics. So
Mm-hmm.
if there's someone who has applied who is going to be part of a one of our sports teams, you will have an advisor for your schedule assigned to you to help with your schedule because usually there's practices and games that you're needing to attend. So there is specific supports in place at both campuses to help you if you're an athlete coming to the UBC or Okanagan or Vancouver campus. This will be very dependent what that looks like on which team you're on and how that affects your schedule, but we do have specific advisors who support athletes.
Yeah.
Anything
The
else?
next upvoted question I see is how accessible are professors for undergraduate students, especially students interested in research or innovation projects, like we had mentioned. So I would say our professors are very accessible and very willing to help out students and connect with you. Obviously, you'll connect with them in your courses as well, but professors also have office hours where they're required to set time aside to literally talk to students about either questions in the course or any other questions that you might have. So I would definitely take advantage of that. If you're emailing profs as well, they're usually quite responsive. I know that we've had some profs that will get back to students in the middle of the night when they have a project due the next day and things like that. So they are very invested in making sure that you're going to be supported throughout your degree. In regarding research, not every prof at UBC is going to have a research lab, but we do have a few great opportunities for research, specifically through potentially you can do research as part of co-op. We also have the NSERC Research Awards, so where you can actually get paid to do research on campus as well. And then in some labs, they may be just looking for other students. So that is where talking to your prof, if they are involved in research that you're interested in, would be a great way to kind of get connected about that. And then regarding kind of innovation projects, those would be kind of similarly related. Sometimes it might be more of like a design team focus where our profs do support design teams as well as a kind of an advising capacity. So that might be something where you're connecting with them. But in general, I would say our professors are very accessible to our undergraduate students. And I think kind of one of the benefits of the Okanagan campus is actually that there's even more research positions available for undergraduate students just because there aren't as many graduate programs. Whereas at the Vancouver campus, we do have more graduate students in labs than undergraduate students. Because that's just the nature of how those graduate programs work. But yeah, options at both campus for students to get involved in undergraduate research and definitely to access our profs. Uh,
Aaron, I see there's
mhm,
a question here about like how to keep your offer of admission. So I'm just
mhm.
gonna type the answer in with the link and put in the how to keep your offer of admission link here. So this has
Perfect.
information related to students from Canada, IB diploma outside of Canada. So I'm not gonna go through all of the scenarios verbally, but I'm gonna add that link into the question. And you said we could flag the questions as well in the
Um,
Q&A?
you won't be able to flag it, but students should be able to see answered questions with the typed response.
Perfect. So I'm going to put this, I'm going to type the response. It's going to move into answered. So if you're wondering about that link to how to keep your offer, just check those answered questions. And I'm just going to put that link in there now.
Perfect. Marie, if you just want to double check if we have that link in the
I will.
resources, and if we don't, then if you want to add that quickly as well while I move on to some questions, that would be great.
I'll do it right now. Yeah.
Perfect. Um, So some more questions about submitting documents and things like that. This question is about taking AP exams. Final exams are in May, results come in July. That's the same for pretty much all of our AP students and IB students as well as even A-level exams usually come in August. or the results come in August, I should say. When you are submitting your results, so for AP, you'll need to request from the College Board that they send your results directly to UBC. For IB, you'll need to request from IBO, and then you'll also need to request if you're taking A-level exams that those are sent directly to UBC as well. Once we receive those, we will assess you for first year credit that you may be able to use and help you kind of decide of if you should be using that credit or not. As an engineering student, the foundation of your degree is really going to be based on math and physics and chemistry. So we encourage you to think really hard before deciding to not take any of those courses in first year and use your credit, because that is really what the rest of your degree is going to be based off of. But ultimately, that's up to you. If you have credit for English or humanities or anything like that, then you definitely can use that credit for sure. But you'll get more information about that, and just make sure that you're requesting from that issuing institution to submit those results directly to UBC. Mm.
See, there's a question here about co-op. Next, so what semester can we begin on-campus employment co-op? Can we apply for it before starting the first semester of first year? And how can we show the part of educational costs will be covered by this employment? So I can speak to co-op specifically, and then there's also a great co-op link in the resources tab where you can learn about the different estimated salaries and things like that related to how that may offset your educational costs. But for co-op, you can, the first chance for you to be able to apply to co-op is either in the beginning of your second year or beginning of your third year of study. Your first co-op term, the absolute first one you can do, is actually between the end of your second year and the beginning of your third year. That summer term is the first co-op term opportunity, and then those are spread out throughout the rest of your degree after that. Depending on your program, there's different sample schedules that you can see on the co-op website to give you an idea of how your degree will be laid out. Co-op does add 1 year onto your degree if you do all of the at least the 4 terms required for co-op. You'll add a year onto your degree, but just remember this is paid work experience that you'll be getting during this time. So your first year is a great time to learn about co-op, see if it's right for you, and then if it's something you're interested in, you can apply to it at the beginning of your second year of study.
Perfect. And then I think the piece asking about to show the part of educational cost covered. So I think that's where your study permit is asking for showing how you're going to pay for this. And because co-op is not guaranteed placement, you still need to go find a job. Those the amount that you make will vary, especially depending on where you're doing your co-op term. Some of the international ones are really cool, but maybe pay a little bit less just because of living expenses in those countries. Some of the ones in Vancouver might pay a little bit more because of living expense, for example, than something like if you went to Saskatchewan for your co-op term. So it just depends on that. So you won't actually be able to prove that as part of your educational costs for your study permit application, which I think is what you're asking for. But knowing that you will get, I think it was something like a net value of about $67,000 that you'll get as part of your co-op experience. So it is something that you can look forward to being able to contribute towards your degree, but I don't think that you can use it towards your study permit application, which I think is what you're getting at there. A few questions about submitting documents and things like that. So we just want to let you know that when you have submitted a document, it will take sometimes a few weeks for UBC to actually pair that with your application, assess it, and actually have any impact to your application. So you should see when it's received, but having been received means that it actually still needs to be reviewed, matched up with your application manually before you'll see that. And then it may still show as that it's not fully complete because even after it's been sort of reviewed and matched, we still need to then evaluate that document as well. And that can take a few weeks as well for admissions to go through. So we get like I don't even know how many applications a year across UBC. I think it's like 40 or 50,000 applications to all of UBC. For engineering specifically, we get like, I think it's like over 10,000 applications a year. So, and that's across like both campuses as well. So when you're looking at that, that's a lot for our not too large admissions team to be processing. So we do appreciate your patience, especially during these busy times. If you've submitted your documents before the deadline, that's all that you need to have done. You don't need to see that it shows up as being processed yet before the deadline. So that's fine. Question about can you change your, it says faculties, but I think you mean program, from something like mechanical engineering to electrical engineering. So again, just to comment that one of the really great parts about UBC is that foundational first year where you will be able to learn about all of those programs before choosing which one you're going to go into. Now, again, at the Okanagan campus, that would be guaranteed choice. At the Vancouver campus, that is a competitive choice. If you are set on mechanical engineering and you go into it and you're like, actually, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. This isn't for me. You can request to change your program. That can be a little bit easier at the Okanagan campus because, again, there's no caps on those programs there. At the Vancouver campus, you would need to go through what's called an interdepartmental transfer, and that will be based on your grades available and space available in that program as well. So it's not guaranteed to switch between them, but knowing that depending on the program that you're doing, it may mean adding some time to your degree. So you may need to decide, can you just take some technical electives that's going to give you what you want to get out of something else and still continue with your degree? Or do you actually want to take that time to fully switch your program if that's something that's available to you? So lots of questions that could be around that, but definitely talking to your advisor once you're in that program would be a really great option so they can help guide you through that process because it's going to be a little bit different depending on which program you're switching from and wanting to switch into and which campus you're at and everything like that. So it is possible. It's not always the easiest, especially at the Vancouver campus, but something that your advisor can work with you to discuss for sure. Just a quick answer to this question about is there a possibility to switch to part-time before starting in September? So neither campus will offer a part-time option for engineering. There is some opportunity where you can do a little bit of a lighter course load, but it would not be what you consider to be part-time at all. It is a full-time program that students need to complete engineering. You can spread it out. The Okanagan has a 5-year plan. You can work with an advisor at the Vancouver campus to spread out some of your courses a little bit as well. But we do recommend as much as possible taking that full first year so that you are just set up for best success as some of the pieces we mentioned earlier of having prerequisites completed before second year and all those sorts of things as well. But if you have a concern of not being able to take the full course load, again, reach out to your advisor once you've accepted your offer to UBC, and then we'll be able to work with you a little bit more on what that could look like for you.
I see there was a question here
Oh,
about
yep.
entrance scholarships, which I know you touched
Mm-hmm.
on briefly. So, for pretty much all of the UBC scholarships, students would have already applied for those, either automatically would be considered with your application to UBC, or the deadlines for some of the scholarships that required additional applications have already passed. If you are still looking for, and those are being assessed right now. So students who are being reviewed for that, you're going to hear about that anytime, usually in March or April, or when those decisions start coming out. So watch your emails to see if you were able to be awarded any of those entrance scholarships. We do have some great links in the resources tab if you want to review what scholarships you would have been automatically considered for. They are a little bit different depending on the Okanagan and Vancouver campus, as well as domestic international applicant. If you are looking for other scholarship opportunities right now, highly recommend that you do some Google searching. Engineering scholarships, women in STEM, STEM scholarships. There may be scholarships available within the country you're from or the region you're in from different companies, as well as different organizations such as Engineers Canada, Engineers and Geoscientists BC. So do some Google searching, and there may be some more scholarships that are available for you to apply to. Also, keep in mind that there are scholarships available within UBC and other organizations as you progress through your degree as well. So it's always good to sort of look that up to see what are upcoming scholarships you may be able to apply for as you progress through your degree. How are we doing over here, Erin? I see we only have a couple questions left.
Yeah, I'm just trying to type a response to a few of them. There's a couple that we have answered
Yeah.
already, so I'm just trying to mention those. There is a question about the pre-med alternative pathway. So if you have been admitted to UBC at the Vancouver campus, about 10 days to 2 weeks after having been admitted, you should receive an email from our UBC Engineering email that shares more about the biomed path. And you will be able to apply into that. There's a link there that you can apply into it. You do have to be admitted to UBC at the Vancouver campus for engineering first before you can apply into the pre-med, sorry, you're asking about pre-med. I was talking about biomed. Sorry, that's the process for biomed. For pre-med, you can find that on the website and there should be a link for that as well. Let me pull up that link. Sorry, I feel like reading through all these questions, I can't read anymore. So there is the pre-med alternative pathway. Um, we do encourage you to consider if that is truly the path that you want to take because it does add some additional courses to your degree, and there is the option to do the biomedical pathway to still meet the requirements for medicine. But the pre-med path is also an option if you would like to. We do not have very many students get into that program. Um, but I will add the link there for you. Um, and you can apply. It's just an application that you can find on the website. So let me also add a link.
I just want to preface that for the Okanagan campus, we don't have a specific pre-med alternative pathway. Students who are doing a pre-med pathway work directly with an advisor at the Okanagan campus if they're interested in that. So you won't find anything specific on the website, but we work directly with those students on what that pathway looks like. Hey, Erin, I'm just wondering, we only have a few questions left here. If we should move to wrapping up. I know we had a few other slides, so I don't know if you want me to wrap up while we answer the rest of the question just by doing some typed answers, or is there anything else that we would like to
Yeah.
answer out loud?
Yeah, I think the rest I'll just type responses too. Let me reshare my screen, Marie, so that you can um
Awesome.
right. Yeah.
I can see it. I
Okay.
can see slide control. Perfect. Thank you, Erin. So I'm going to just go through a few other slides. I realize we're at time so for those of you who have to leave, you can sort of see the other ways to stay connected with us while we're answering the last few questions here. So, there's a lot more that's happening the next few months. If you have any other questions, there are a lot of ways that you can learn more and stay connected with us as we work through this process with you. So first of all, please keep an eye out for emails from UBC Engineering. We're going to have a lot of important information in there and upcoming events, as well as make sure you're checking your applicant service center and that you're keeping up to date on any emails coming from UBC admissions as well. They're going to be reaching out if there's any specific updates to your application or if they need any other information. In the emails from UBC Engineering specifically, we will often feature our UBC Engineering ambassadors, and you can actually chat with those ambassadors using our Chat with a Student platform. So if you have any questions about student life, student experience, please go to our Chat with a Student platform here. We have students across a lot of our programs at both of our campuses who have been in co-op, they studied abroad, they done their own design team, so they can really share with you what they've gained from those experiences, how they've joined the process, and how they've been able to, balance their school life and these extracurriculars. Just to note that on the Chat with a Student platform, they're not able to answer any questions about admission, study permits, or your application, but they're a great resource if you have any student life related questions. So over the next few months, we're also going to have a lot of other events. You can see on the slide, we have a pre-biomedical engineering timetable information session coming up. We have a UBC Engineering Success Starts Here. So this is where we're going to be really talking about the supports that you're going to have throughout your degree. We have a specific international applicant welcome coming up in March, and then we have a finder community in mid-March, which we're going to have some students sharing about their experiences, really talking about how they've joined clubs and done some of these different customizing their degree outside of their the things in the classroom. So if you're interested in joining any of those and listening in and participating, you can actually register for these on our event page. That link is in the resource tab. And you can also find out more engineering and campus-wide events if you go to that u.ubc.ca page. After this session, we also have a survey that you can fill out to let us know what you thought about our event. And upon completion, you're entered to win a UBC hoodie, which is always a great bonus if you're selected to win that hoodie. Awesome. So that takes us to the end of our session with you today. I can see that Erin is typing the last answer to the last question, so that timing worked out perfectly. We want to thank you so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure to be able to answer all of your questions. If you do think of any other questions, please feel free to reach out to us. You can reach Erin at outreach@appsci.ubc.ca. You can reach me at engineering.okanagan@ubc.ca. If you email the wrong one, it's okay. We know each other. We'll forward it to each other. So please feel free to reach out to either of us, and we are happy to answer any other questions that you have. Thank you again for joining us from wherever you are today, and we hope you have a great rest of your day or evening or morning, and we hope to hear from you again soon.
Perfect. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.